Hillary Clinton is breaking her silence and she is torching Donald Trump. She gave an incredible interview in New York City and she was not holding back about what she thinks about Donald Trump's collapsing term. First, Hillary Clinton mocks Donald Trump for not even knowing where the Strait of Hormuz is on a map. Hillary Clinton's like, you can't make this stuff up. If this was in a movie, you'd walk out because this wasn't believable. Here, play this clip.
Curiosity about anything going on around him. That, you know, like when he launched the war against Iran, and then, out of the White House, you hear that nobody told me about the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, nobody told me they could close the Strait of Hormuz. Mm-hmm. Where is the Strait of Hormuz? You can't make it up. It's like it's like some movie that you walk out of because it's so outlandish.
Dr.
Right?
Strangelove. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Then Hillary Clinton talks about Donald Trump physically rotting and physically and cognitively deteriorating. Let's play it.
Over a long period of time, you've debated him 3 times. You've observed him very carefully, obviously. Is he disintegrating? He just turned 80.
I think he is certainly not what he was. He doesn't come across, at least in the way that he presents himself, with as much energy, falls asleep in lots of public meetings. I mean, poor Joe Biden. I mean, shut his eyes, once or twice, but Donald Trump is like falling asleep all the time these days. But part of that is he stays up all night posting on Truth Social. So he's not getting enough sleep, anyway, which is pretty disturbing because I don't think people who are sleep deprived make good decisions on top of everything else. But I really think he has a number of traits that have gotten, more obvious. He doesn't even try to hide them. His impulsivity, his immaturity.
Then Hillary Clinton really knows how to get under Donald Trump's skin. She said, of course Putin was helpful to Donald Trump's election win because Putin knows exactly what kind of weak and pathetic leader Donald Trump is. Let's watch right over here.
As he's basically...
I must say, he loves you. I have never seen somebody speak so harshly of anyone as to watch Putin speaking about Hillary Clinton.
Well, I wear it as a badge of honor, but it did help... contrary to what you hear from Donald Trump, he did help Donald Trump win, and partly because he knew what kind of leader I would be compared to, Donald, whom he knew would not.
And Hillary Clinton explains how she negotiated with Iran and how it's very different from how the Trump regime was so careless and reckless and catastrophic. Here's what she says right here.
I started the negotiations that led to the JCPOA, the agreement that President Obama eventually signed. It was an intensive diplomatic effort. We started by getting the UN Security Council to impose sanctions, global sanctions on Iran in June of 2010. We then, worked to get secret negotiations started through Oman. And those began with several meetings and with a plan about going forward, and which I handed off to my successor, John Kerry. But these were serious negotiations with high-level people. So when we sat across a table from Iranians, we had our own nuclear physicists there, as did they. We had experienced diplomats, people who had negotiated on many different fronts for many years. That's not the way this administration does its business. And so I think we have come out weaker. We've caused a lot of both confusion and I think some distrust in the larger region about what our goals were and what our staying power is. So I believe until we see the agreement, which allegedly will be signed on Friday in Geneva, we don't know what's in it, and we don't know what's left out of it, and we don't know, how it's going to be spun, but it doesn't seem to me that it's going to be an effective maneuver by Trump to claim some kind of victory.
And here Hillary Clinton really articulates the threat that Donald Trump poses. And she talks about a term called domain loss. When you're losing, you don't know the law of holes. So you keep on digging and you keep on digging. Let's play this clip right here.
He does represent the threat of authoritarianism, and the people who enable him, who support him, who follow him, have clearly decided that his kind of performance politics, his deliberate cruelty and behavior that has never been seen by any of us in an American president before, is exactly what they want to see for the country. Now, the good news is his favorability is in, the mid-30s. People who had supported him, not because he was a wannabe authoritarian, but because he promised to lower prices and, create a better future for people and their families. They've seen the reality. It doesn't match the rhetoric. And so they have moved away from him, but he is doubling down. He's doubling down on his impulsiveness. And it's very worrisome to me because I'll end with this. I teach at Columbia University now, of course, with the dean there. She and I have been on this stage together. It's called Inside the Situation Room. And we talk about the traits of leaders, their behavior, their psychology. And there is a view that is rooted in how people make decisions, all of us, not just leaders, about what happens when someone finds themselves in what's called the domain of loss. It's a psychological concept. And almost counterintuitively, when people feel they are losing, they very frequently take greater risks. They double down on their behavior. And that's what I'm now worried about, because he's lashing out. He's demanding that we accept his version of reality, which is unhinged from the actual world that we live in and the actual consequences of his actions. So I think we have to be extremely vigilant and just, ready to push back every chance we get.
Yeah, I thought that was a very powerful point she raised right there.
Ever wake up sweaty, freezing, or just uncomfortable? The temperature in your bedroom can make or break your sleep. That's why I switched to Miracle Made sheets. They're inspired by NASA technology and use silver-infused temperature-regulating fabric to help you sleep perfectly all night long. Here's the thing, thanks to their antibacterial silver technology, Miracle Made sheets stay cleaner and fresher up to 3 times longer than regular sheets. That means fewer odors, fewer wash cycles, and way less laundry. All that hidden bacteria in regular sheets, it can clog your pores and cause breakouts. Miracle Made's antibacterial design helps you sleep cleaner and clearer night after night. And they feel just as good, if not better, than sheets you'd find at a 5-star hotel, but without that steep price tag. Smooth, breathable, and ridiculously comfortable. Miracle Made sheets are crafted with NASA-inspired silver-infused fabric that helps regulate your body temperature. Hot sleeper, cold sleeper, it doesn't matter. These sheets help keep you in the comfort zone all night long. Upgrade your sleep or give the gift of better rest. Go to trymiracle.com/Meidas to try Miracle Made sheets today. You'll save over 40%, and when you use promo code Meidas, you'll get an extra 20% off plus a free 3-piece towel set. They make an amazing gift, and with a 30-day money-back guarantee, there's no risk. That's trymiracle.com/Meidas, code Meidas at checkout. Thanks to Miracle Made for sponsoring this episode.
She then goes on to talk about how the Trump supporters are indeed deplorable. And she said, half of them are deplorable. Half of them have been misled and defrauded, but half are definitely deplorable, she says. Let's watch for yourself.
First of all, I said only about half were. So, to be fair,
well, are you doubling down on deplorable?
But I have to say, I gave a speech, for example, about something called the alt-right, which, the press had no idea what I was talking about. Certainly the public had no idea what I was talking about. But, I was beginning to see this really disturbing rhetoric, racist rhetoric, sexist rhetoric, the kind of authoritarian, demagogic claims about our politics. And it worried me. So, I tried to kind of put that into the political debate, but I also did try to, draw a line between those who were following him because of that. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a bug, it was the feature. They wanted to follow someone who was, demeaning President Obama, was, making claims about me, saying things like, the Second Amendment, people will take care of her. I mean, terrible things that were in that campaign against me. And people didn't take it seriously. People were like, oh, that's just Donald. He's just spouting off. Don't worry about it. I saw something darker, but, I was in not the strongest position since I was running against him to make that case. So I was trying to say, look, I understand there are people who believe that kind of stuff, but most of the people, at least half, who are, following him, they want change. They are not satisfied with where we are in the country. They want, a different economic reality. He's promising all of this.
Hillary Clinton then talks about her experience when she was Secretary of State and how Benjamin Netanyahu would try to threaten her, and she, unlike Donald Trump, would stand up to Bibi even from the outset. Here, let's play this clip.
Well, you're absolutely right. When I was secretary, it was a constant, theme by Netanyahu and his then government, the then defense minister, Ehud Barak, the former prime minister. Mm-hmm. It was relentless. It was a constant push. I remember...
what would he say to you?
What?
What would he say to you?
He would basically say, you need to support us in attacking Iran. And back then, this was, 2009 to the end of 2012, we had more capacity than Israel did on several fronts to do that. And so there was a constant argument that we would have. And I remember one day I was on the phone for hours with Ehud, with Bibi, with others, and they would say things like, our planes are on the tarmac. And I'd say, well, good luck. I mean, great. Why are you doing this?
Where else would planes be other than in the air? But
on the tarmac, ready to take off. Yes. Well, no, they'd be in the hangar, but they were on the tarmac. And you would say things.
You're saying you were being played
all the time. I mean,
by an ally that receives an enormous amount of aid.
Well, of course.
She talks about Netanyahu's obsessions. Let's play it.
And look, Bibi's been obsessed as long as I've dealt with him with two things: Iran, as you know, mm-hmm. and his desire to normalize relations with Saudi Arabia. The first formal meeting I had with him in 2009, probably March, at the State Department, it was absolutely, how can we get normalization with Saudi Arabia, and how do we totally decapitate Iran? And he had this view that I think has become very clear in his, dealings with Trump. Number one, decapitate the regime, it will fall. Number two, do enough bombing against enough critical infrastructure, try to, disable the military insofar as possible, the people will rise up. And that was just never our read about what was going to happen.
More on Netanyahu here. Let's play it.
And that has not been uprooted yet. So I think, Netanyahu believes that war is his friend because his political standing is under attack from a lot of different directions. And he wants to contain the opposition by creating conflict so that he tries to rally the country behind him. I think this Iran deal may be, the straw that finally breaks that and creates an opening for, his departure in the upcoming elections and, a government that is certainly going to be very concerned about Israel's security, but might be somewhat more adept at dealing with these problems in a way that enhances Israel's security.
Then she talks about what her husband, what Bill Clinton, former President Clinton, says when Donald Trump even says he's going to run again. She goes, well, Bill Clinton says that he'll run again too and beat Donald Trump. Let's play it.
Well, David, you and I think alike. I think, number one, if he could figure out a way to stay, he would. My husband likes to say, if he tries to stay, I'm running again. But if that's unlikely, which we have to hope it is, I don't get the feeling he's all warm and fuzzy about J.D. Vance.
And then she was reflective and talked about when she noticed the real threat that Donald Trump posed when he went from this kind of cartoonish character to starting to really gain traction with the conspiracy theories about former President Obama. Here, let's play this clip.
Probably when he began to lead a movement questioning Barack Obama's birthright citizenship. And before then, I was not aware. I hadn't read Art of the Deal. I hadn't followed some of his public utterances. He allegedly told the man who helped him or wrote The Art of the Deal, the only book he had on his bedside was Mein Kampf. I did not know that.
Big seller.
That's right. And he also he ran full-page ads accusing Ronald Reagan of weakness. So there had been a few eruptions that I was unaware of. I kind of viewed him as, exactly the sort of figure you described. But when he began to do the big lie about first Senator Obama, then President Obama, that's when I began to pay attention and wondering what's really behind this. Why is he doing this? And so relentlessly, it didn't matter. And I remember talking to President Obama about it. And, President Obama, like so many of us, is like, who cares? Just, I'm not going to respond to that. And what we have learned is how important it is to respond. It used to be you could ignore that kind of outlandish claim, and it wouldn't, last for long. But with the internet, it lives forever. And so he began to demonstrate his understanding of the new information ecosystem that we're in.
And finally, here's how Hillary Clinton ended this. Let's play it.
Such a sense of ourselves as Americans, as freedom-loving people, and we would defend it to the last. I don't see that that's a universal.
Well, I'm afraid you're right in terms of the acquiescence. And, I was in the Senate very proudly representing New York for 8 years. There are still people on the Republican side I served with there. I don't talk to them, but my former Democratic colleagues report to me. They go into the cloakroom. They're in the hallway.
But aren't you sick about hearing about what they say in the cloakrooms?
I am really sick of it. I'm very sick of it because they are betraying the kind of weakness that is, undermining of a great country and our institutions because they won't stand up to them unless they're on their way out. Why not?
Are these jobs so great that you can't?
For some people, they are. So for some people, it's simply staying in power, being able to, feel like they are important. For some people, it's literal threats. The only person I know who spoke publicly about this was Lisa Murkowski.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, if you are threatened the way some of these people are threatened and their families are threatened, and you think you may be rationalizing, but you think, well, I can try to rein in more if I stay on the inside, so I can be against, but I can't be against too much. That's one thing. But the people who are in positions of great economic power, like the tech companies and other, large businesses, have been so disappointing in the way that they have, basically aligned themselves with Trump policies, and in large measure, I guess, because they think, quote, it's good for their business. And what I have said privately and publicly is you are making a grave mistake, because you may think it's good for your business today, but somebody who offers a bigger bribe, because make no mistake, these transactional deals they're making are nothing but bribes. You support me or you don't get this contract. You do support me, you're going to get that contract. These are bribes. That is in the Constitution as an impeachable offense. And so part of what I see happening is men, and they're all men, basically convincing themselves they have to do this for the business. But what they're not appreciating is that this kind of unchecked, unaccountable power can turn and bite them just as easily. You saw it. You saw it in Russia. You saw the transition from the collapse of the Soviet Union. And you saw, the oligarchs being formed, the privatization. But then when Putin came along, it was, I want 5%. No, I now want 25%. I want 50%.
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Powerful indeed, huh? Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. And thanks for watching, everybody.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.